Welcome back to Conversation.
I'm Lilia. I'm Evie's sister.
And Lily's back, and we are going to talk about that 90's show that just came out on Netflix, and they did say there's going to be a season 2.
There is?
There is.
Oh gosh. I was really hoping there wouldn't be a second season for that.
Yeah, and like for me, like I've watched all of the episodes of that 70's show so many times, and it's one of my favorite shows ever, and
yes.
So it's just really crazy to watch this now. But like you watched, I don't think you've watched all of the episodes of the other one, but like most of it.
I got to the last episode and I was like, what the heck is this? Like they just totally like shifted the characters into a different love interest, and I was like,
yeah, it's super weird. What I like about the show is like the first episode where you get like the original characters, and I think the thing about that 70's show, especially in like those last 2 seasons when he's not in it, is like Eric makes that show. I'm sorry, like Topher Grace, true. He makes that show. He does.
He looks the same too.
Because when he's on the screen and like with his parents, like that's the best part of the show, and it's only in the first episode. And I like that he named his daughter Leia. I think that's really cool.
That's funny from Star Wars.
And yeah, I basically like everything like with like his parents and him, and like that's kind of it. Like the Donna stuff wasn't like super great to me. Like I didn't really like the Sherry character, and
oh yeah, I didn't like her either.
I think one of the main problems was what they did is instead of like the main thing for me is there's too many kids. There's too many characters.
And they all like act the same in a way.
Yeah. And they're not all introduced. They're all like just thrown at you at once. And like for example, like Fez wasn't in the first couple episodes of the other show.
Wait,
and
really?
then he got like introduced kind of into
like he got put into the friend group.
Yeah, and then it's just weird to, like, especially with Gwen, like, she just sees her, and, like, within, like, 2 seconds, they're, like, friends, and it's just, it would be so much better if they had spent more time, like, introducing everybody and, like, letting you know who they are, instead of just saying, like, here's the people, and it's just not, I mean, they did that with the original show, but it was just, it seems so fast, like, they didn't establish, like, oh, they've been friends for a while.
Yeah.
Because it's like she's like, you know, the new person and everything. And I just feel like how they introduced everything was a little rushed. And then the other part of that is that had only 10 episodes in the first season, whereas like that 70's show was like double that. They'd have like 22 to 24. So I think that's part of it too, is this season was so short that they really condensed a lot of stuff, and it didn't work for me.
And it's like a Netflix show now, so it only has 10 episodes like every other Netflix show, too. It's not like...
And I just feel like they didn't do anything.
They didn't do anything, like, entertaining or anything like that. It was weird.
It was just them talking about, like, relationships, and, like, I felt like her and the Jay Kelso character, like, got together, like, so fast.
Everything was just super rushed. Like, it wasn't... There was no real, like, storyline or, like, plot. It just kind of was, like, all over the place, I feel like.
Yeah, and you'd think if they only had the 10 episodes, like, all of that would have been, like, planned in advance, like, everything. But especially the last episode, that feels so rushed. Like, it's so weird.
It's, like, 2 characters together that, like, had no interaction,
like,
and then they're together by the
end. Like, 2 seconds of talking.
Nate
and it's like, you're gonna, like, take her character who's supposed to be, like, this nice character and make her, like, kind of, like a homewrecker, and then, like, have this other guy, and it's just, like, what are we doing? Yeah, it's just, like, everybody's dumb. Like, Nate is dumb, and Jay is supposed to be dumb.
They're trying to make 2 Kelsos or something, like, Jay and Nate. I'm like, dude, what is this show? Like,
it's just really weird, and then, like, they say, like, in passing that Jay, like, does really good in school, and that he's got brains, and I'm like, okay, and like I told you before, like, are they trying to insinuate that he's Brooke's kid? Because Brooke was supposed to be super smart. Like, that's the person that Kelso had that other child with, that they could have put her in the show. Like, they could have had a Betsy character. And maybe they will, because it's only the first season, but that would have been cool. And that thing about, like, having too many kids, you start with all these characters, and then you don't get to add anyone. You don't get to, like, put new people
too many
into
people in the show already.
There's one too many kids. Like, I love that they're being, like, more inclusive, and there's, like, more variety of like characters, and like all that stuff, but it's just too many right away. I think they should have just like maybe halfway through the season add like another character, and because then you don't get to see how like the dynamic changes, or like
True.
I don't know. It's just it was very like, here's everybody, we're just gonna get into this, but like I said too, they don't do anything. Like they just talk about
It's just
her relationships, and they talk about how annoying she is, and
the first episode where she's trying to like kiss like random dudes at the mall or something,
what
which
are
was
we doing
so
there?
weird.
Like she's literally, her first kiss is kissing some dude against his will, and she like gets like thrown out of the mall because she's like chasing dudes around. Like if you imagine like if that was switched the other
That's
way,
so like
that
not
would,
real life.
No, that would not go well at all. And I
No.
don't see how that's played for laughs. Like that's not.
I don't think that's cool, because if it was the other way around, like you said.
Well, it'd be way funnier if they were just doing like she keeps trying and then like gets turned down, which is what's happening. But then she's like chasing people. I don't know. It's just a weird. It's just a weird way to do it. A lot of like really weird choices, and
felt like a Disney show, honestly, like a
yeah,
just lame Disney show with Disney characters. The acting wasn't that great to me. I mean,
they tried to do what they did in the first that 70s show where they're taking kids that don't have a lot of acting experience, and they're like
really?
new and stuff, I think is what was happening, but it just doesn't
work.
It just doesn't like work, and like the outfits, like the clothes and stuff, like it's off. Like a lot of people have said that. Like I read some of the reviews, like most of the reviews say like they only really like the adults, otherwise they're not really laughing in the show, which I think is accurate. And then everybody's like, yeah, that's not how people dressed in the 90s, that's not how people acted in the 90s. Like they say it's like got this big like millennial stamp on it. And to me, the clothes look like what you could buy at like Forever 21 right now. Like it's not.
That's what
it's
I thought
not
too.
like. It's not what people wore like then in necessarily. A lot of it's very 80s, which is really weird because we're in like 1995.
Yeah.
This isn't 91 or 1990. Like we're well into the 90s, and people are wearing like 80s stuff, and it's
seemed
weird
like
to
it was
me.
like late 80s.
I just think it's weird too how they didn't. It's one thing to like not have Hyde's character in the show, which that's like its own reasons and
The
and
only
all that
good thing
stuff.
in the show.
But you can still mention like. And maybe Laurie's character's not in the show. Obviously, that
True.
original actress died, and they had a different actress. But it's like you could say, "Well, Laurie's off doing this," and like Hyde's like in prison, or like you could say something. You could acknowledge it. You could set up like the continuation of that, and like the fact that like Kelso's with Jackie again.
Yeah,
and she's and like no mention of Brooke at all.
I
which
thought
is so
she
weird.
ended up with Fez or something. Like at the end of the show.
Yeah, and they just don't.
They don't
like,
talk about it.
They
'Cause I know
talk
they're
about
married
it
now.
once, and he says like, "Oh, I caught her talking to him on the phone," and like they just talk about it, and it's like you could do a flashback, you could do like just something else. Like it's just so glossed over. Like the only thing they continue is that like Bob lives in Florida and that he moved to Florida, and like I like that part of it because then you're like, okay, I can see the progression of time. Like I see like how we get to where we are, and it's instead of just like here you go, you know, and like it's a new thing and just accept it, and it's like
they just throw it all over you. Like they're just like, here's a show, like we rushed it, we don't really care that much. That's what it felt like. It was just rushed. And
yeah, and like the only like they kind of do like in one of the early seasons they like go to that that like club in like Kenosha, which is kind of like what they're doing with the rave thing, but they don't do anything. Like all they do is talk about their relationship. It's like her and Jay stuff is like 90% of like everybody talking in like all the kids talking and all their interactions, and it's like, can we do something else? Like they do the keg thing, which they did in the first season of the other show too, where they don't have the tap, and it's like the same thing. And I do like when they do like the video thing, and it's like a problem that we don't have now where, oh my gosh, everybody wants to watch this video, and now I have to go find the person that didn't return it, and like, and then, you know, Tommy Chong's character is there again, and like that was like a good, that's something. Like that's something that they're doing, and I like that part of it, but that they didn't have a lot of that. It was a lot of just like, Leia's upset, and everybody's annoyed that she keeps talking about like how upset she is, and it's like, okay, like we've done this like 2 or 3 times now.
And then like Kitty with the computer.
That was funny.
See, like, those things, like, that should have been added more, like, little funny things like that, but they just talked
that's
about
where you
relationships with Jay, like you said.
Yeah, like, that's where you get the time period, where, like, there's computers and, like, stuff like that. And I just think it's weird, too, that, like, they did that 90210 reference, and they like, the way they did the joke was they were just, like, repeating the opening sequence, like, 3 times, and I'm like, okay, like, if you made it totally different, like, 3 times, but it's like, why am I watching this? I don't know. I thought that was really confusing.
It just was a disappointing show for me. I mean, it just makes me like the 70s show even more, honestly, when I watched it, so.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, like, the actor of Hyde, I'm not a big fan of that stuff at all, but I liked his character, but it sucks because it kind of ruined the show for us.
And regardless of the outcome of all that, it does, like, taint it a little bit, and he was my favorite character, and it just,
Same.
It's a bummer, and it's like, you know, I wish that they had, you could mention it, like, you can mention it, you can say why they're not there. They did it in the ranch, like, when he wasn't in the ranch anymore, they mention him, and they say why he's not there, like, they, you know.
They just don't want to get canceled.
It's the easiest thing ever. Just say he's in prison, like, something like that.
He's gonna be in prison.
And like with every character, you could do that. Like, maybe for real, we'll see. But
it just sucks though, because it was like such a good show, and then that kind of ruined it for everyone. I feel like, because it's a bad person.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, like, Wilmer Valderrama is not bringing it. Like,
he's also. I've heard creepy things about him too.
I don't know what they're doing with his hair.
Okay, his hair, that's gotta go. That was horrible.
I don't know what that's about. Like, I like that they're showing, like, oh, he had the job at the salon, and now he owns salons. Like, that's a thing.
That was
and,
kind
like,
of funny, though.
He's kind of like Bob in a way, where Bob kept getting rich and, like, being, weird with his money, and now he's kind of like Bob. He, like, dresses like Bob did, like, with the open shirt and the chains but it's so weird, and, like, him and Sherry, like, it's just a really...
That's weird. Like,
Sherry
just came out of nowhere to me, honestly. I mean, I know it's the mom of the kids,
and I think that wasn't helping, because I don't think you needed that in the first 10 episodes. Like, she could be in, like, a scene or two, like, with the first couple, and then not have the Fez thing, and then bring her more into it the next season to focus on the kids, because that was a little... much with stuff.
Like, in that 70s show, they had, like, the weird, like, neighbors, like Donna's parents, what's her name? I forgot. Midge or something?
Uh-huh.
And,
I don't want to know what she's up to. Like, what's Midge's character doing? That actress died. She also died.
Midge?
Yes.
But really? From what?
I don't remember.
Okay.
But she also passed away, but you could still say something. Like, you can say why the person's not there.
Keep the storyline going.
Like, I would like that. It would make it, I don't know. Maybe that's just my weird thing, but it just gives it that little extra thing where you're like, okay, we're in that world, and, like, this is where everybody's at and what they're doing, and, like, the last episode is such...
It doesn't make sense. Like, why would you put Nate and Leia, like, it's gonna be like a love triangle
thing. Oh, we just need a cliffhanger, so let's just, like, make one up.
Like, oh, let's do this. That'll make people want to watch the second season or something. But it's like, no, I don't think so. I don't really think it would.
No, it just makes me be like, well, what if they didn't...
It's just disappointment.
The cliffhanger could have been, like, the will they, won't they, like, get back to, or end up together, just her and Jay would have been fine. Like, at the end where he's like, now I want to be with you, and she's like, well, now I don't know, and we're just going to leave that up in the air while I go back home, and then wait till the next season. Like, that would have been fine. Like, you don't need that extra weird thing.
Yeah, and especially since he's, like, dating that other girl, and then, like, she's friends. It's just so weird.
And that was another good part where it's like the hot tub thing where it's like, back then, like, you just had to go off of, like, what the ad said, and you couldn't, like, like, that's kind of funny. And it would have been a little bit more interesting, like, to make her part of the show, like, for at least for a few episodes, like, it's his girlfriend, and she's like, well, I don't, like her or something, and make something out of that, instead of just, like, she's just there. Like, she doesn't do anything. I guess you could say Gwen is supposed to be kind of like a Hyde character.
Yeah.
Which, it's really dumb to me because, and I'm being, like, pretty harsh on this show because it's just, like, I like the other one so much because in the context of the 70s, like, Donna's, like, feminist stuff that she's super into, it makes sense with the time period.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't... I'm not that stuff didn't happen in the 90s, but it wasn't really... It wasn't, like, that big revolution like it was then. And so she kind of, like, says, like, oh, I read this book about feminism, you should do this, and then, like, admits she didn't read it. And it's like, well, like, Hyde's character, like, he was a smart... He, like, had stuff. Like, he, you know, he had his conspiracy theories, but he knew things. And
he knew what he was talking about.
He wasn't, like, pretending. So I don't really get, like, the point of that. So you're just making her character, like... What character is she? Like, what is she doing? Like, I don't know what that is.
Like, she's supposed to be the edgy, emo, like, 90s.
Yeah, and, like, and Jay and Nate are so similar, and...
Yeah, they tried to make, like, two Kelsos, and then they, like, the other, I forgot his name, Ozzy, is, like, supposed to be, like, funny and, like, different from the rest, or, I don't know. And then, what was the other one? I forgot her name, too.
Nikki?
Yeah, Nikki.
And she's, like, a nothing...
She's just
like,
there,
I totally
too.
forgot about her. Like, we only mentioned her just now.
We mentioned her just now.
Forgot. It's... So... I think it would have been really cool if they would have had, because you're making another Kelso, and if you want to, like, kind of make it the same but yet a little different, like, I think if they would have just had, like, Kelso's other kid, Betsy, like, make Betsy a character, make her super smart, like, she's the smart one.
Yeah,
and she's kind of like, I'm better than you guys because I'm smart kind of person, and, like, that kind of thing, like, be, like, a Jackie, but in a different way, and that is that she's smarter than everyone, not that she's richer than everyone, and do, like, that would be different. And then you have a Kelso that's a girl, and then you're doing something different with it, instead of just making, like, it's just a carbon copy of, and I'm like, well, I think they just wanted the whole joke of Red being like, not another Kelso.
I know, but that's so, like, unoriginal. I mean, original, because it's just, like, so predictable, honestly. And, like, I think they did good with the casting. Like, Jay honestly looks a lot like his parents, which is good, but I don't know. Leia, I mean, I kind of...
Leia doesn't look anything like him. I think it's weird that she's blonde.
She should have been ginger, maybe.
Maybe it's like she dyes her hair or something, but I just was like, okay, she doesn't... Kitty's blonde, so...
Kitty still, like, looked like she had the same hair from that 70s show, to me.
It's kind of hard to say, like, what to do differently, because, you know, I think when you, like, critique a show like that, like, a lot of people will be like, well, then what would make it better? And, like I said, I think just, like...
There's a lot of things.
More... character, like, backstory on people, like, letting me know where the other old characters are, even if they're not going to be in the show. And, like, mentioning them also brings up, like, it sets up that they could be in the show eventually. So when they're doing that, it also says to me, like, this person's not going to be in the show, we're never going to mention them again. And it's like, well, that's disappointing. Like, even, you know, just saying something, or, like, she's on the phone, like, Katie's on the phone with Lori, or, like, making a joke, you know, just, like, anything
just little
like
things
that.
like that, yeah, I think so, too. And, like, Jackie and Kelso and, like, Donna and Eric, they didn't, like, interact with each other at all. Like, they could have had an interaction or something. Like, everyone would love to see that, too, but they didn't.
Yeah, it's
like,
kind of like, if you're gonna
times.
do it, maybe do it for, like, I don't know what their plans are. Like, maybe they're planning on, like, doing more, and at the time, like, people couldn't, like, do it, like, schedule-wise or something, but
they could have had an interaction, though, like, with their kids, or, like, just them four or something. Like, just give us something that gives us the nostalgic feel of that 70s show. I don't know. I mean, I guess they're just trying to make the kids more important, but, like, I don't know.
It's hardly anything of what I wanted, like, of what you would have wanted, and, like, for you, like, to watch it, and you get kind of, like, you know about the other show, and, like, have that new generation. It's like, who's this for, then? Because, like, you don't like it, I don't like it, who is it for? Like, younger people don't like it, people that watch the other show, they're older, don't like it. Like, that's the thing with a lot of stuff that we're doing now, is, like, and Ryan and I talk about this, too, a lot of the times, like, who are you making this for? I don't know, man. I just wish there was Yeah, like you could just leave stuff alone.
What would you rate it?
Oh my gosh, like a 2 or a 3 out of 10, to be honest with you. And the only reason that's giving me that is for like Kitty and Red and like Eric being in that first episode, and
Eric still got that, like, I don't know.
It just
still got that feel from that 70s show, I feel like.
He's just perfect for this, and like he makes everybody better. Like they all
That's very true.
Because and
he just puts the show together. Without him, it's like he basically, I feel like he carried that whole 70s show. I mean, it was about him too, and then when he left, like, because of, you said, Ashton Kutcher started to get more famous and stuff.
But I did like in the original when they introduced like Angie as a character, because she was very different than everybody else in a lot of ways. So, and then you got to like see like a different perspective on it. She's like, why do you guys do this? Or like, what, you know?
Like, what's wrong
and
with
so
you?
you're like, you get to see something different, somebody else like reacting to them and stuff. And like that's what that does. Is like, you get to introduce another character and make it like a little different in some way. And I feel like I don't know what they're gonna do. Like
for season 2, like, what are they like? Let's see how rushed the next season is then.
Yeah. But let us know like what you think. That's what like we're here for, is we want to know what everybody else thinks and kind of like get that conversation going, and just give us your thoughts, and we'll see you next time.
Let us know. Bye. Blockbuster, is that like a store where you could buy like movies?
You just rented them.
I remember that.
We used to go there all the time.
Yeah, and then didn't make it.